you have a new piece of city which is being made in the centre of probably one of Europe's great historic cities.
This is probably the single biggest project that we've ever had in Oxford, and in terms of a building project, it's the largest certainly for the last 100 years.
The opportunity is to think about what it is that buildings now in the modern age can bring that's new and inventive. For example, sustainable ideas about low energy buildings, new ideas about teaching and flexibility, modern forms of construction. All of those are things which allow us to make buildings which couldn't have been made before, and yet they have to be made in the context of a highly sensitive historic environment, right in the middle of everything that's been developed over the last 1,000 years.
We're standing in the boardroom, which is where the hospital trustees took all their decisions over the many years. In fact, took their decision to move the hospital lock, stock and barrel to the Headington site. And it all happened here. This will, in a few short months, by the end of the year, by September, it should be fully operational. But on top of the restoration and the improvement of really historical buildings, of course, there's a very large programme of entirely new building development going on.
A large part of the Radcliffe development will be the new Mathematics Institute, and from September 13, essentially the Mathematical Institute on its new site in the Radcliffe Infirmary will bring together 3 large buildings full of people, all under the one roof. You want to go and ask advice or talk to someone about a problem, they're going to be down the corridor instead of half a mile away in a different building, so that's fantastic.
Where a student comes out of a lecture, or where an academic comes out of their individual office, what happens next? And what can you do to maximise the number of possible interactions those individuals would have with unexpected people? So what you want to do is to give people the opportunity to encounter each other, to see each other in those spaces, and even to have the opportunity to sit and chat and talk. So that connective tissue, both internally in buildings and between buildings, is what makes a good public place.
And also just the chance to talk to people informally over tea or in the corridor about a different project will really be of massive benefit. Across the university, about 10% of students have a core element of mathematics in their degree, so it really will impact a tremendous number of students across the university.
We're flanked by colleges on this site. We've got Somerville to the south particularly. They've been able to develop a really very pleasant accommodation block, which is really doing a great deal for their ability to house their students on site.
If I had to live out, then I would be paying about double what I'm paying here, because I'd have to rent privately for the entire year, and I just feel a lot more secure. So it's financially and then also for my own security, it's really good being able to live in college. Obviously when I first moved in, I was definitely aware that there was a building site there. Although studying engineering, I do find it quite fascinating watching the cranes.
There's potentially up to 20,000 patients transferring to the new health centre. For me as a GP, this building is going to be a really great improvement. If you look at the old health centre, it was designed for practice in the 1960s really. Clearly those rooms are no longer fit for purpose. In the new building, we've been able to design rooms room by room with the architects, and we think that the nature of the building is such that it's not difficult to move rooms around if in 20 years' time we need to do that.
And it's an extraordinary thing, because this entity, which has been inside your head and inside the heads of a small team of consultants and builders and architects who are designing it, is suddenly out there in the world. And I suspect it's rather like watching your children growing up, where you're going, oh no, we didn't mean you to be like that. But somehow or other, it's kind of both extremely exciting and sometimes very humbling to see how people will just take over your building and turn it very quickly into a bit of the world that really has nothing to do with you anymore.
Oxford has been the centre of scholarship in the English-speaking world for 900 years, more or less, and it's never been able to stand still. In order to keep that position, you have to continue to invest in your buildings, in your people, in your infrastructure and so on. And the site we're on now, it represents the latest phase of that investment in continued development and refreshing of our facilities to ensure that scholarship, research and teaching can continue to be better here than anywhere else in the world.